Good evening, and welcome to Preservation Connecticut's 2021 Connecticut Preservation Awards. I'm Jane Montanaro, Executive Director. I am so happy that we can all be together tonight, even though it's once again from the comfort of our own homes, to take a moment to celebrate the incredible preservation work going on in our state. But first, a little bit of housekeeping to help you get the most out of tonight's virtual experience. You have all arrived here already on mute, and I will invite you at the end of our program to unmute, turn on your video, applaud, and cheer. And also use the chat feature to offer your congratulations to the award recipients. I now suggest you set your screen to speaker mode so that you can view those who are speaking as well as the video and PowerPoint presentations. We have a program book. Virtual version can be found in the chat and online. Those that ordered our Connecticut Preservation Awards party boxes have program hard copies, as well as an assortment of Connecticut snacks and treats, and a recipe card for a preservation libation, rum, pineapple, and nutmeg cocktail. We are incredibly grateful for the 42 businesses and individuals who generously supported tonight's event. Thank you to our Ionic and Doric sponsors, and this is the way they appear in our program book. The Ionic sponsors are Hoops, Morgenthaler, Rausch, and Scaramoza, Scholar Painting and Restoration, Wind Development. Doric sponsors are Architectural Preservation Studio, Kemper Associates Architects, The Architects, La Rosa Building Group, the Russell Agency, LLC, Kroski Architects, Knight Architecture, Babbage Construction Company, Cronenberger and Sons Restoration, Domus Constructors, LLC, GNCB Consulting Engineers, JKMA Architects, Paul B. Bailey Architect, Patriquin Architects, Svensk and Company, R.J. Ailey, and 2 Design. The support of these and all of our sponsors is greatly appreciated. Thank you all. I now turn the spotlight over to Preservation Connecticut's Board Chair, Caroline Sloat.
Good evening. I'm Caroline Sloat, Board Chair. Happy Preservation Week. And thank you for joining us for our second virtual Preservation Connecticut Awards. Until last year, this was one of our great in-person events, a time to socialize with preservationists. Oh well, we will do that next year. Reflecting on 2020, I have to thank our staff and the wonderful board with whom I'm privileged to serve for making Preservation Connecticut the dynamic organization that we are. We recently held our annual meeting and our officers have been re-elected. Vice Chair Tom Nisley, Secretary Mary Jean M.J. Agostini, Treasurer Peter Stockman, and me as Chair. Rejoining the board after serving a year as Assistant Treasurer is Garrett Hare. In another change, Charlie Jansen is moving to our advisory board after 11 years as a trustee. During that time, Charlie served as board chair and vice chair and was an ardent supporter of our book, Connecticut Architecture, Stories of 100 Places. He is one of Connecticut's National Trust Advisors. He's an active member of Preservation Action, Connecticut Preservation Action, and so much more. Charlie, we are grateful for your generosity and thank you for your continuing engagement. While we have not held an in-person meeting, thanks to the telephone and Zoom, we have conducted our business in a timely manner. I can also report excellent results during the staff's pivot to remote service. Circuit riders have been busy taking calls and meeting virtually with homeowners and others. Our series of weekly noontime discussions relating to preservation have been held through the year and start up again next Wednesday over Zoom. We draw listeners from around the state and then we post these recordings on the Preservation Connecticut website so you can catch them anytime, particularly if you have questions that have been addressed. Finally, I want to observe my pleasure to be celebrating our honorees this evening, representing, as you do, the choice to preserve, rehabilitate, and repurpose historic buildings for the future. Combining your will and skill with advice and counsel from the preservation community and others has added much needed housing and value to our state in so many ways. Not the least is keeping historic buildings standing and out of our local landfills. We need to celebrate that because, as our staff points out, and you can see for yourself on our blog, the pandemic rush to find a place in Connecticut has resulted in a wave of demolitions. So to those of you whose work we are honoring this evening, we want to thank you and take this opportunity to amplify the benefits of preservation to inspire others to do the same. Jane, back to you.
Thank you, Caroline. And now on to the awards. We have a 20-minute video presentation prepared for you for the Merit Awards. Since we are not mingling in person tonight, we start the video with a short trip down memory lane with images of in-person preservation awards of the past. We would be delighted to schedule on-site, socially distanced presentations with any of the award recipients this evening who would like to do so. So now we present to you the Connecticut Preservation Awards of Merit.
Good evening, everyone. Preservation Connecticut is proud to present its Connecticut Preservation Awards for 2021. Although the coronavirus pandemic has put much of our daily life on hold, the value of historic places remains undiminished. Lockdowns have awakened new appreciation for places we once took for granted. Social distancing measures have forced us to reconsider how we use the buildings, neighborhoods, and landscapes that surround us. Revelations of social inequities have underlined the need to assist and affirm vulnerable or neglected members of our society. And the uncertainty of living amid constantly changing conditions has made us crave surroundings that can give us a sense of rootedness and security. We at Preservation Connecticut are honored to recognize the projects and people that make clear the many ways historic places contribute to the life and vitality of Connecticut communities. We look forward to the time when we can visit these places freely and celebrate in person with the guardians and champions we must recognize remotely today. Here are this year's Merit Award recipients. The Tyler, East Haven, former East Haven High School. Built in 1936 under the Works Project Administration, the East Haven High School was a major fixture in the lives of many East Haven residents until its closure in 1997. Wynn Company's rehabilitation of the four-story Colonial Revival building transformed a vacant former school into 70 mixed-income apartments for seniors, 14 of them set aside for people formerly homeless or at risk of homelessness. The Tyler is the first multifamily project in the nation to utilize historic rehabilitation tax credits and also meets stringent passive house sustainability standards. Attaining this high degree of environmental sensitivity begins, of course, with the reuse of an existing building and continues with the retention of historic millwork, lockers, display cases, and facade, as well as the use of energy-efficient windows and appliances. Federal and state historic rehabilitation tax credits helped make it affordable. Once and for all, this project should make it clear that preserving historic buildings can achieve a high level of sustainability. The project team includes Wynn Development, Wynn Residential, the Architectural Team, Keith Construction Inc., McRosty Historic Advisors LLC, Stephen Winter Associates Inc., Connecticut Department of Housing, Connecticut Housing Finance Authority, Connecticut State Historic Preservation Office, Mayor Joseph Carfora, Representative Joseph H. Zullo. Immacare, Hartford, former Church of the Immaculate Conception. On a bitterly cold morning in 1981, a priest at the Immaculate Conception Church discovered a homeless man frozen to death near the church steps. The shelter that Immaculate Conception started in response eventually became an independent organization that remained in the building even after the church closed in 2000. In the process, Immacare has evolved from a shelter dealing with symptoms of homelessness to an organization that has provided permanent solutions to thousands of people. Extensive renovation of the former church, constructed in 1894 and listed on the National Register of Historic Places, has equipped it with modernized spaces, improved accessibility, and new facilities for expanded services. In the basement shelter area, new mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems were installed, along with modernized accessible bathrooms and a commercial kitchen. Upstairs, slender Gothic columns and restored frescoes still create an atmosphere that is both uplifting and impressive, while small buildings within a building house office and meeting spaces. This creative use of an historic building shows how unused churches can continue to serve their communities. The project team includes Immacare Inc., Paul B. Bailey Architect LLC, To Design LLC, Morrissey Engineering LLC, Acorn Consulting Engineering Inc., Montano Construction Inc., and the Connecticut Department of Housing. Neiditz Building, Hartford. When it opened in 1946, the Neiditz Building was the first downtown commercial building to be constructed after years of depression and war. In a sign of the reawakening of economic activity and investment, the building was conceived as a showcase of modern design, amenities, and materials, particularly mass-produced architectural elements available through trade catalogs. In recognition of its place in Hartford's economic and architectural history, the building was listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Today, the Neiditz Building has been renovated for a mix of residential and commercial uses. Federal and state historic rehabilitation tax credits helped make possible the conversion, while ensuring the preservation of its historic character. The exterior retains its horizontal ribbon windows, as well as catalog products such as Zaurite aluminum storefront panels and Conair storefront windows and doors. In the lobby, visitors are still greeted by original terrazzo, marble and bronze, and nickel silver-plated elevator doors. Exemplifying the new trend for downtown living, the Neiditz Building is once again a catalyst for revival in Hartford. The project team includes Spectra 111 LLC, Crosskey Architects LLC, Long Consulting LLC, James K. Grant Associates, Freeman Companies LLC, Wonderworks Construction, Girona Ventures, the Connecticut State Historic Preservation Office, the National Park Service, Capital Region Development Authority, Capital for Change, People's United Bank, Eversource Energy, Cone Resnick, and PNC Bank. Parkville Market, Hartford. 25 years ago, longtime Parkville resident Carlos Muta bought several buildings in this former industrial neighborhood, now listed on the National Register of Historic Places. When a fast-track bus terminal opened nearby, Parkville became more accessible, sparking new opportunities for redevelopment, and Parkville Market was born. The market campus consists of 3 buildings built in 1914 and 1921 for a lumber company. The central building, a 200-foot-long warehouse, is the first to be redeveloped. A self-storage facility, until recently it was transformed into a vibrant food hall, offering space for 18 vendors as well as dining areas, meeting rooms, and event space. Sustainable design and cooperation with local nonprofits played important roles in the conversion. Although the market opened in the middle of the pandemic, all segments of the community have happily come to eat, drink, work on their laptops, play in the courtyard, and meet in the meeting rooms. By highlighting Hartford's diverse population and its food culture, Parkville Market has been embraced by its neighbors and not seen as a foothold for gentrification. The project team includes Parkville Market LLC, Beta Group Inc., Life Care Design Inc., and the Art Fitters LLC. Cortlandt Arms, New Britain. The Cortlandt Arms apartment building stood derelict and abandoned for 25 years in downtown New Britain before extensive renovation made it a showpiece once again. During those years, the 1915 building suffered neglect and vandalism. Yet despite these indignities, the building maintained a stately presence in the Walnut Hill National Register Historic District. After several developers failed to finance renovation, Chrysalis Center Real Estate acquired the derelict building. Chrysalis, which specializes in renovating historic structures as housing for people trying to rebuild their lives, leveraged historic tax credits on both the state and federal level to do the job. Although the Cortlandt Arms contained just 24 modest apartment units, it was handsome and well-appointed inside and out with classical planning and detailing, marble and terrazzo finishes, and an elevator, dumbwaiter, and mail chute. Many of these features were restored during renovation and still contribute to the building's distinct character. Derelict no more, the building once again is a home, serving 20 families with modest incomes, as well as 4 formerly homeless veterans. The project team includes Chrysalis Center Inc., Housing Enterprises Inc., Paul B. Bailey Architect LLC, Pack Group LLC, Civil One Inc., To Design LLC, Morrissey Engineering LLC, Aztec Engineers Inc., McGran Associates, and James Sexton, Ph.D. The Lodges, Norwalk. American fraternal organizations proliferated in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when the lodge offered rituals and symbols that provided fantasy and drama in the lives of otherwise ordinary citizens. In South Norwalk, buildings associated with 2 of these organizations, the Loyal Order of Moose Lodge, built 1932, and the Independent Order of Odd Fellows Building, built 1923, have now found new life. Both buildings had been either vacant or underused for decades until Bob Barton and his company, Sonosun LLC, decided to make them a vibrant part of the community again by using state and federal historic rehabilitation tax credits. In the Odd Fellows building, existing commercial spaces were rehabilitated and 5 apartments were created in the upper floors. One, a double-height live workspace occupying the former meeting hall. The Moose Lodge now contains 5 offices and 3 apartments and retains its moose-themed murals. These buildings provide housing for diverse tenants as well as jobs in 11 minority-owned small businesses, some of which remained in place during renovation, achieving revitalization without displacement. The project team includes Sonosun LLC, Sono Lodges, Heritage Resources, Gill & Gill Architects LLC, GNCB Consulting Engineers PC, Carmody, Torrance, Sandak, and Hennessy LLP, Michael Ganino CPA CFE, and Eversource Energy. Brian Andrew House, Orange. Home to 19 families since the 18th century, the Brian Andrew House has been restored to serve the people of Orange. It's been a partnership between the town of Orange, which bought the house in 2000, and the Orange Historical Society, which restored and operates it. Accomplished in many phases, restoration included making crucial structural repairs, undoing 20th century alterations, rebuilding a stair that had been removed to create a modern bathroom, repainting feather-edged wall sheathing, and repairing the kitchen fireplace and oven for hearth-cooked meals. Volunteers were key, providing some of the labor, scouring antique shows and shops for appropriate furnishings and household items based on Brian and Andrew family inventories, and of course, raising funds. 2 Eagle Scout candidates organized the construction of retaining walls on the property. The Brian Andrew House, listed on the National Register of Historic Places, is open to the public as a testimony to the endurance of colonial Orange. It's also a testimony to the persistence of a small volunteer organization which has devoted 20 years to celebrating their community's history. The project team includes Orange Historical Society, Ashford Restoration, Jason B. Young, Miles O'Sullivan, David Briggs, Joe Carney, the Town of Orange, and Mitch Goldblatt. William Mason House, Thompson. Built in 1845 for a local mill owner, the William Mason House is one of Connecticut's best examples of the Gothic Revival period, included in a National Register district as well as a local historic district. Yet no designation could protect the magnificent dwelling from neglect. Abandoned by an owner unable to carry out renovations, it sat vacant for more than 20 years, damaged by burst water pipes, weather, and neglect. In 2004, Preservation Connecticut listed the house as one of the most important threatened historic places in the state. After the then owner died in 2018, the house finally was put on the market, and in 2020, Kenneth Loisel and Kelly Jones bought it. They have restored the exterior, repairing rotted trim and repainting in historic colors, and are rapidly completing the interior, beginning with structural repairs and proceeding to restore windows and moldings. The plan is to open as a country inn and wedding venue in the fall. This once sad story now has a happy ending. The project team includes Kenneth Loisel and Kelly Jones, Orchard Products, Sunset Nurseries, Custom Curved Moldings, Hancock Forest Products, Tim's Carpentry, Northeast Newsreel, Frank Rossett Antiquity, Rayla Hardscape Design, Trudeau Electric, Silva's Fine Painting, Rampco Construction, Faux Real Decorative Painting, Sean Morgan Painting and Wall Covering, Joshua Edwards Masonry, Jared Falk Plumbing and Heating, The Airbrush Shack, Country Sheet Metal, Desmaris Excavation, Brian Fournier, Elena Cabot, Joanna Sullivan, Steve Ayers, and Dave Labs. "70 Turkey Hill Road South, Westport." This farmhouse, built in 1892, easily could have been demolished, an all too common fate for modest historic buildings on big lots, especially in prosperous Fairfield County. In 2008, the then owners received a demolition permit to build a larger house, but the project fell through and nothing happened until the property sold in 2019. After consulting with the Connecticut Circuit Rider, the new owners, Rahul Ghai and Priyanka Singh, chose instead to preserve and restore the much-altered house. Vinyl siding and asphalt shingles came off, to be replaced with clapboards and cedar. The enclosed front porch was opened up again, the side porch reconstructed, and new windows installed. This change in plans was made possible by Westport zoning regulations, which grant relief to certain zoning restraints if owners agree to preserve an historic structure. In this case, the historic house will be retained as an auxiliary building along with a new principal residence, something that ordinarily would not be permitted in a single-family zone. The project team includes Rahul Ghai and Priyanka Singh, Christopher Pagliaro Architects, Fletcher Development LLC, Town of Westport, and the Westport Museum for History and Culture. Volunteer Award, Michael Carroll and Rediscovering History. As an historical researcher, Michael Carroll often finds useful information in cemeteries. As he tells it, quote, "In 2020, I spoke with the gentleman in charge of a Norwich cemetery. After a few minutes, he invited me to see a cemetery on his property in Salem. It was the Minor Cemetery and was in desperate need of restoration and cleanup. The vines were 20 feet thick and we could barely see much. He stated that no one had looked after it for many years. Instantly, a light bulb went off. I knew that I could help." Michael recruited some helpers and began cleaning up cemeteries in southeastern Connecticut. Now called Rediscovering History, the group identifies lost or neglected cemeteries and obtains permission to clear brush and clean and repair gravestones. To date, Rediscovering History has worked on cemeteries in Salem, Sterling, Preston, and North Stonington, with more planned. For the volunteers, who include high school students gaining community service hours, it's an opportunity to get face-to-face with history. For the public, it makes cemeteries more visible and appreciated. The project team includes Michael Carroll and Rediscovering History volunteers. Congratulations, and thanks to all these awardees for their hard work and their contributions to the preservation of our state's historic built environment. To learn more about Preservation Connecticut and these award recipients, visit preservationct.org.
Our next award is the Mimi Finley Award for Young Preservationists. It takes its name from Mimi Finley of New Canaan, whose career has encompassed many aspects of the preservation movement, professionally as a Historical Society director and preservation consultant, and personally as a board member and volunteer for local, statewide, and national preservation organizations, including as a trustee and chair of Preservation Connecticut, then known as Connecticut Trust, and a founder of Connecticut Preservation Action. Mimi has allowed Preservation Connecticut to use her name and legacy to recognize young preservationists whose early achievements and future promise exemplify the dedication and accomplishments that Mimi has brought to her work. We are honored to have Mimi here tonight to present the award.
Thank you very much, Jane. I appreciate that. Am I unmuted? No, I'm fine. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mimi.
The award winner for the Mimi Finley Award for Young Preservationists this year is Nina Caruso. And there she is. She's had an extraordinary, tiny little career in her young age. Sensitive, and this is what was prepared for me to read. Sensitive architectural design is crucial to preserving historic buildings and adapting them to new uses, but often need help to understand the significance and the context of the structures they work on, and to negotiate the bureaucratic processes of approvals and certifications, particularly for the tax credits, which often make preservation projects economically viable. This year's recipient of the Mimi Finley Award for Young Preservationists does just that. She is Nina Caruso, Director of Historic Preservation for Cross Key Architects in Hartford. Nina joined Cross Key Architects in 2014. She applied for the job at the urging of her predecessor in the position, with whom she had worked as a high school intern. She began by working on historic tax credit applications, and over the years, her role has expanded into designing and recommending preservation treatment methods and performing conditions assessments, as well as business development and preservation advocacy. Today, as Director of Historic Preservation, Nina oversees much of the preservation work that makes up a large portion of the firm's practice. In addition, she provides a valuable link between the firm and the Connecticut State Historic Preservation Office and the National Park Service, which must process and approve tax credit projects. As the firm's qualified expert She also makes presentations about the federal and Connecticut historic rehabilitation tax credit programs, historic preservation and sustainability, and heritage landscapes. Key preservation projects on which Nina has worked at Cross Key include Spectra Boutique Apartments in Hartford, the Hotel America on Constitution Plaza, built in 1964, was adapted to overcome some of its urban renewal shortcomings. The Wheeler Security and Harrell buildings in downtown Bridgeport, apartments and retail spaces woven through these early 20th century commercial buildings. And the J.R. Montgomery Mill in Windsor Locks is the big factory on a beautiful but difficult site overlooking the Connecticut River. It was converted to 160 apartments. Capitol Lofts in Hartford, the former Pratt & Whitney machine shop from the 1890s, a high-profile apartment conversion just a block from the state capitol. The Capewell Lofts, Hartford, a challenging project to convert the long vacant Capewell horse nail factory of 1903 to residential use. And the Nidetts building, Hartford, which you've already seen this evening. In addition to design and tax credit work, Nina wrote the National Register nomination for the building. By the way, in addition to earning historic rehabilitation tax credits, every one of these projects received a merit award from Preservation Connecticut through a nomination which Nina prepared. Not only does she shape successful rehabilitation projects, she can craft compelling nominations too. In addition to her day-to-day work, Nina is the Vice President of Connecticut Preservation Action, the preservation community's unified voice at the state capitol. She has been the Secretary of the Bloomfield Historic District since 2019, and she serves on the Southington YMCA Property Committee. She's also passionate about cultural landscape preservation and has led interpretive tours at Camp Santorini, a National Historic Landmark and New York State Historic Site. Nina has already accomplished a great deal in her short career, and she aspires to continue working in historic preservation for many years to come. She is currently seeking additional experience in the practice of architecture and hopes of one day becoming a certified historical architect. We look forward to many more great things from her.
Thank you, Mimi. Nina, would you like to say a few words? There you are.
Yes, if I can hold back the tears that would stop my heart from beating out of my chest. Thank you, Mimi, and congratulations to all of the award winners tonight. That was so emotional and beyond anything that I expected. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to receive this award. I have to hold back the tears. During Preservation Month and my birth month, but I am also so honored to stand with the past recipients of this award. Can you hear me okay, Jane?
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
Since I've started my career, I've prided myself on serving the community that inspired and encouraged me to become a preservation professional. And it is that community that I'd like to thank tonight. Angela, Marguerite, Laura, Mary, and Julie. I'm also incredibly grateful to the leadership team here at Kroski Architects, Laura, Mike, Dave, and Mark, but especially to Bill Kroski for the various opportunities I've been given throughout the years. Thank you for your support, leadership, and for believing in my abilities. Historic preservation is about shared community values, and I feel an overwhelming sense of responsibility to conduct my work in a manner that considers the broader picture of historic preservation and inspires and educates others. This award is a reminder of my greater commitment to uphold a set of principles that I value dearly and to bring people together. I'd like to conclude by telling you that my proudest professional accomplishment has been listing the Nyadett's building in the National Register of Historic Places. Through my research, I was able to connect with the descendants of Moses Nyadett's, Dan, Moses' son, and his son, Steve, who I think is on here tonight, which ultimately allowed me to bring their family history to light and uncover an important social history associated with Hartford's development. I also learned that my father, who's also with us tonight, has known and worked for the Nyadett's family for years, which is just incredible. These meaningful interactions are what drive my passion for historic preservation. And congratulations again to the Spectra Pearl team, and thank you everyone, and thank you for your wonderful comments that are coming in. I really wish that we could be together. We're so close. I love you all so much, and thank you.
Congratulations, Nina. Big virtual hug. I think next we're going to go to Chris Wiegren to present the Jane Shig Award.
Good evening. I'm Chris Wiegren. I'm the Deputy Director of Preservation Connecticut, and a hard act to follow. But it's been so good to work with Nina, and I'm enjoying that. But I'm here to present the Janet Jane Shig Award for preservation professionals who've been doing their jobs a little bit longer. From the dazzling Connecticut State Capitol to the star-spangled ceiling of Grand Central Terminal, historic places gain color, excitement, and meaning from decorative finishes. John Canning and Company has built a nationwide reputation for excellence in conserving, restoring, or recreating historic painted, stenciled, gilded, or plaster work at historic buildings in Connecticut, but all across the country too. The company was founded by John Canning, a Scottish immigrant trained in art history and the decorative trades, and they've become nationally known for their dedication to exemplary craftsmanship, to historic preservation, and to spreading knowledge in order to produce both capable professionals and educated clients. An early project, and one of John Canning's favorites, was the restoration of Connecticut's state capitol in the 1980s. The original painted decoration was laid out by a single artist, William James McPherson, giving the building an unusual consistency of design and palette. The restoration work was a combination of conserving what had survived and replicating what had been lost. John understands that modern technology can achieve impressive results, but he encourages clients to employ historic materials and techniques whenever they can. On one recent job, he used what's called black lead to refinish an iron fireplace surround that others had wanted to sandblast. This isn't actually lead, but rather a type of polish made of graphite and wax and traditionally used on cast iron stoves and fireboxes. In fact, John himself, as a child, used black lead to polish his mother's grates. Everyone wants to reinvent the wheel, he says, when there are perfectly good techniques that have been forgotten. Yet John Canning and Company does more than just painting. David Riccio, a firm principal, points out that the company has evolved from painting and decoration to broader preservation work. One example is the restoration of the council chambers at New London City Hall. There, the firm conserved and repaired deteriorated plaster before they could restore the historic painted decoration. At another job at the First Congregational Church in West Haven, Canning and Company reattached a collapsing historic plaster ceiling. In this case, the work was not just decorative, but a life safety issue. Another way the firm expanded was by establishing its liturgical division, Canning Liturgical Arts, in 2015, to provide congregations with a broad range of design services. John's original training had been in church decoration, and the firm had always worked on churches, but they were not a principal focus. David explains that one inspiration for the new division was a discussion he had with a priest about creating some furniture for an historic church. The priest asked, "People can still do this?" He didn't realize that the craftsmanship still existed. So a goal became to show that yes, people can still do this kind of work. For David, liturgical work serves a higher purpose. People find the renewed spaces inspirational, he says. When we finish the work, we often find that attendance increases. One liturgical project, the Cathedral of St. Patrick in Norwich, shows John Canning and Company's approach on several levels. The 19th century church had largely been stripped of ornament in the 1950s. And the firm at first was asked to create a new decorative scheme for it. However, physical investigation and archival research showed that it was possible to restore or recreate the building's original stenciling and murals. One new design was needed, a focal point in place of the historic altarpiece, which had been ripped out. Adding a stained glass window was considered, but wasn't feasible. So the firm created a false window instead, using translucent stains over aluminum leaf, which reflects light as glass would. And as John points out, this is a technique that has been around since the 1880s. The project received a Merit Award in 2014. In addition to hands-on preservation work, the company generously shares its expertise. Apprentices are brought in to work on many projects and go on to found their own companies. Dorothy Canning Hennessy, another firm principal, speaks of the satisfaction of collaborating with them on projects around the country. Company leaders teach educational sessions through university preservation programs, conferences and workshops, and professional continuing education. And the company's website features articles and resource guides to help clients navigate the way through all kinds of work, from paint analysis to writing specifications for plaster repair. The Janet Janeshig Award commemorates Janet Janeshig, a founder and benefactor of Preservation Connecticut, as well as a regional leader in historic preservation. Although a volunteer herself, she always insisted on the highest standards of professionalism. For the quality and sheer beauty of its work, for its championing of traditional techniques, for its dedication to knowledge sharing and development, and for its contributions to countless landmarks in Connecticut and across the nation, John Canning and Company exemplifies the professional excellence that the Janet Janeshig Award celebrates. So we're happy to present that award to them. And now John Canning will say a few words.
Wait, on? Yep. Oh, well, there we are.
Spotlight.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. We are both pleased and honored to accept this Janet Janeshig Award for preservation professionals. Over the years, the John Canning Company has been active in more ways than another in preserving Connecticut's architectural heritage, whether it was picketing to save historic buildings or executing the actual work of conservation and restoration. And this we have pursued with a passion. So I'm delighted to say that the work of the company will continue through another generation with the same passion for preservation. So let me recognize them again. David Riccio, Jackie Canning Riccio, and Dorothy Canning Hennessy. It's their dedication and leadership and professionalism over the years that has made this award possible. So on behalf of David and Jackie and Dorothy, I thank Preservation Connecticut for this award, which will be displayed in a prominent place in their office. So thank you again, Chris, and a thank to the Preservation Connecticut.
Congratulations, John, and all of your staff on this prestigious award this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The final award of the evening is the Harlan H. Griswold Award, which will be presented by our partner, the Connecticut State Historic Preservation Office, Department of Economic and Community Development. We are honored to have Jonathan Kinney, Director of Operations and Deputy State Historic Preservation Officer, here to present the award tonight.
Good evening, everyone. The Connecticut State Historic Preservation Office and Preservation Connecticut are pleased to present the Harlan H. Griswold Award to New London Landmarks. Named for the longtime chair of the Connecticut Historical Commission and a founder of Preservation Connecticut, the award honors outstanding contributions to the preservation and revitalization of Connecticut's historic places. Since 1975, New London Landmarks has been at the forefront of preservation activity in New London, advocating for historic buildings, neighborhoods, and landscapes, carrying out surveys and planning studies, providing advice and information to city officials, renovating buildings, and building appreciation for a wide array of important places in the city. Advocacy is basic to preservation, and Landmarks has led many important preservation battles in New London. The organization was founded in 1975 to oppose the demolition of 8 buildings along Bank Street, one of the 2 principal vectors that define downtown New London. In the 1990s, Landmarks was instrumental in saving the Hygienic Building from demolition for a parking lot. Rehabbed as artists' loft and gallery, the building is a thriving hub of New London art life. After merging with the Union Railroad Station Trust in 1976, Landmarks has championed H.H. Richardson's Landmark Railroad Station, most recently calling for revisions to a proposed pedestrian bridge that would have loomed over the station. In 2010, the group led opposition to the proposed sale of Riverside Park in 2010. And in 2017, Landmarks initiated a successful lawsuit in partnership with Preservation Connecticut and the state to block demolition of 116 and 130 Bank Street, which form a crucial part of the streetscape. Surveys provide a firm foundation for advocacy, gathering historical information and laying the groundwork for historic designation. In the 1980s, Landmarks surveyed and prepared National Register nominations for 11 neighborhoods throughout the city, as well as numerous individual sites. These surveys still provide valuable information used to judge historical significance and make the case for preservation. Just last year, survey materials helped 38 Green Street qualify for rehabilitation tax credit. Preservation planning can grow from surveys as well. As part of its advocacy for Riverside Park, Landmarks received a placemaking grant for the park and the adjacent Hodges Square neighborhood. These grant-funded neighborhood charrettes and master plan for neighborhood and park carried out with Peter Minuti of the University of Connecticut and landscape architects Kent and Frost. The master plans are gradually being implemented, bringing needed attention to this working-class neighborhood. Over the years, New London Landmarks has been a valuable resource for the city government. In 2003, the organization developed a delay of demolition ordinance, which the city adopted. The ordinance has provided valuable opportunities to work with building owners to offer alternatives to demolition. Landmarks also crafted design guidelines for city officials to use with potential developers and coordinated conservation of 2 public statues. To encourage commercial life and preserved buildings, the organization was instrumental in bringing the Main Street program to New London. An underlying theme of Landmark's work over the decades has been building appreciation for an ever wider array of significant places. Starting young, it created a local history curriculum for use in city schools in 1987. Currently, the group is creating a Black History Heritage Trail under contract with the city. 15 sites have been identified and researched to tell stories of African Americans in New London from colonial times to the 1960s. Plaques will be installed this summer. Although it is generally operated in the background, Landmarks has renovated key historic buildings. In 1979, it bought and rehabbed the Elias Jennison House on Hempstead Street. The David Bishop House on Washington Street was bought in 1988 and renovated in partnership with Habitat for Humanity. Today, the building houses Landmark's offices plus 2 apartments. Currently, the organization is renovating 23 Franklin Street, a Greek Revival house in a National Register district that is also significant as the home of the local civil rights activist Linwood Bland Jr. For a small nonprofit, it was a risky project, but it is bringing a derelict building back to life. What's more, by putting its own skin in the game, Landmarks gains credibility with developers. During this pandemic year, Landmarks has documented residents' experiences through an oral history program called New London Speaks. More than 70 New Londoners have shared their experiences of living through COVID-19 with stories, photos, artwork, videos, and more, all posted on Landmark's website. Harlan Griswold once said, "To me, preservation is more about my grandchildren than about my grandparents." Through the hard work of engaged board members, skilled staff, and dedicated volunteers, New London Landmarks has helped to build a better future for our children and grandchildren since 1975. The State Historic Preservation Office and Preservation Connecticut are honored to present the Harlan H. Griswold Award to New London Landmarks for its outstanding and ongoing contributions to preservation in Connecticut. And now I have the privilege to introduce Executive Director Laura Natush, who I believe would like to say a few words.
Just a few words. Really just thank you. It means so much to be honored by our peers. I also want to thank our board of directors and our volunteers. We are really lucky. We have a fabulous group of directors. And I also want to thank prior executive directors, because a lot of what you mentioned and a lot of our history as preservationists predates my employment at New London Landmarks. And I especially want to thank Preservation Connecticut and the State Historic Preservation Office for this award, yes, but also for all the other support that you have given us through the years. We could not have done it without you.
Well, thank you, Laura, and congratulations to you and New London Landmarks, the wonderful work that you do.
Thank you.
And I want to echo Nina's sentiments about how we wish we could all be together. There's such a great body of work being represented here tonight, and so many dedicated professionals and volunteers that, you know, we're sad we can't be together one more time. We really appreciate your efforts so much and so impressed by all of the work that has been going on. The projects will all be in our next newsletter, descriptions of all of your work in the newsletter. Again, I invite you all to contact us for in-person preservation award presentations. We'd love to come out to your site and do a small socially distanced award presentation. And we'll have the video available to share on our YouTube channel and anywhere else that we can post it. And I can't close the evening out just yet without a huge debt of gratitude to the Preservation Connecticut staff. You have no idea how much non-preservation work goes on around here to put on a program like this. And Chris Wiegren, Jordan Sorensen, Kristen Hopewood, and Mike Farino, thank you so much for pulling all of this together. Your talents are so much appreciated. So now I invite everyone out in the audience to please unmute yourself and feel free to clap. I know we're all holding it in. Clap and say, yay! Thank you so much all for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you once again to our sponsors. We're so touched by the support that we've received by
Chris Flynn does a good job.
And individual supporters this year.
That's good.
And thank you all for attending. It's really wonderful to see you all.
I know. I saw it. It's my fault.
Thank you, everybody. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Thank you, Jane.
Seward.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Jane. Jane, well done.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you, everybody, from Orange Historical Society.
Really. I'm having trouble with the mouse.